Hi everyone, it's Miss Caitlin, and today I am going to do a project with you for our Around the World series. Today we're going to be traveling to the country of Greece, which is in Eastern Europe. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so there are two ways of going about doing this project. The way that I'm going to be showing you how to do it is the book version. So you're going to need some watercolor paper. You could get like a pad of watercolor paper and just, tear out the pieces and then slide them into a plastic sleeve to create a book. We're going to do the map and the locations that we're visiting onto these watercolor papers. The second way you can do this project is by making a giant wall map. So what you would do is stick two pieces of watercolor paper together in the back, and then you would draw the map onto the other side really big. And then for the map, for the locations we're visiting, you would then draw them onto these little squares of paper, and you would place them in the appropriate spots. These are about maybe like 1.5 inches or 2 inches by 2 inches. So if you want to take some time to cut little squares out, go for it. You're only going to need 2 for today. Now let's go ahead and get started. We are actually just going to jump right into it with the final draw because the drawings today are actually very easy. So go ahead and take out a piece of watercolor paper if you're doing the book version, and then take out your giant map, your two watercolor pieces taped together if you are doing the map version. So once you have those things ready, let's go ahead and begin. Now for the country of Greece, we're going to learn the shape of it first. It is a country in Eastern Europe, and it's very old. You probably already are familiar with the country of Greece. Now I'm actually going to go ahead and pull out a marker here to draw out the basic shape just so that you can see it. So what I want you to do with your pencil and your eraser, with your pencil first, I want you to go to this side of your paper. Remember, you want your paper vertical up and down like this. I want you to draw just a really big, long C shape. Then I want you to go just about here on your paper, and I want you to draw another curved line. All right, so this is going to be our basic shape for the country of Greece. I'm going to pull out a Sharpie, but you're still doing this in pencil. Again, this was just to help you see. And we're going to start shaping the borders and outline of the country. Now, I want you to go ahead and start right here again. I want you to draw a wavy line up to about here. I want you then to draw a curve, then draw another curve, and then I want you to draw a curved wavy line following the edge to about here. Then you're going to draw another curvy wavy line back to the other side here. And then you're going to draw a wavy line up and around. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to draw a rainbow, but with the wavy lines like this. Now, go back towards here. There's a little part of the land that Greece is connected to. So go ahead and draw a wavy line, just kind of connecting outwards right there. Now, Greece is made up of thousands of islands, and even some of the main parts of Greece are kind of separated from it. So I want you to go just about here. I want you to make a line, a wavy line, goes to about there. It's separated from this main part. Draw a curved wavy line out and a curved wavy line in. It's kind of like a Dorito chip. Next, we're going to draw the island of Crete, which is kind of like an oval shape. So go ahead and draw a curved wavy line, and then another curved wavy line that connects. Last but not least, let's go ahead and draw another little island right here. Now we could spend a great deal of time drawing even more tiny little islands, but we have other things we want to get to today. So what I want you to do now, take this time and erase the rest of that curve and this curve here that I did in red. If you have any more of this red curve left over on your paper, go ahead and erase it. You're still going to see it on mine because, again, I did it in Sharpie and marker, but that'll just help you see a little bit more clearly. All right, once you've done that, again, you can pause the video if you need more time to do so. We are going to go ahead and draw the flag of Greece inside the country itself. Now, the flag of Greece is really pretty. It has this sort of cross in the corner, and then it has 9 blue and white stripes. Now, we can't fit all of the stripes on here. That would take us a long time, but we are going to draw the cross that's on there. So I want you to go just about here on your map of Greece. And I want you to draw a short wavy line down. Draw another short wavy line down. You want these two to be about equal. Then draw a horizontal wavy line and a horizontal wavy line out. Go down a little bit and draw another wavy line and a wavy line. And then draw 2 horizontal wavy lines out. All right, so we got the cross done. Let's go ahead and draw a couple of stripes. Now for this, I want you to again go to the bottoms of these wavy lines, draw a horizontal line and a horizontal wavy line. Skip a little bit, draw a long wavy line. Go down here, divide this into 2 with a wavy line, and that'll be it. Now let's go ahead and place the capital of Greece. So the capital of Greece is Athens. And Athens is just about here on a map of Greece. So we're going to put a little dot and we're going to write Athens. Don't worry, I'll spell it out for you. It's A-T-H-E-N-S. So go ahead and take some time to write that out. And at this point, you can add in any extra things. So I'm actually going to add like a little whale over here. I'm just going to draw a whale. I'm doing like a rainbow, drawing a curved line up in 2 leaf shapes to make a tail. And I'll draw his little eye. So he's like coming out of the ocean. If you also want to spend some time adding maybe a couple more islands, go for it. Now, once you're done adding in your islands and getting everything the way you want, I want you to outline all of your pencil lines. Remember, don't outline any remnants of those curved lines. Those are just there to help guide you, so you can erase those guidelines at this point. And I want you to outline again with a permanent marker of some kind. I'm going to be using a lot of watercolor today, so I want to make sure that my marker that I'm using to outline is permanent, so it doesn't bleed away. If you're not using watercolor, then maybe you can just use whatever marker you have. Now I'm going to show you what this looks like without those red lines, so that you can see clearly which lines you want to Sharpie. All right, so again, pause the video if you need more time, but we're gonna go ahead and start on some coloring for our map here. Now I'm actually gonna start with some oil pastel first. So for this, I am actually just gonna outline the country of Greece with this light blue. We're gonna be a little fancy with our map today. Probably even fancier than we were with the map of France. Now, if you don't have an oil pastel, maybe you could use a crayon for this part. You could also like outline in a marker or color pencil. Just know if you use a marker and you're also doing watercolor, the marker might blend away once we begin painting. So we're going to take some time to just outline around these wavy lines. Remember, with oil pastel, you want to press pretty hard to make sure you get that color payoff, or just show the color a little better. Don't forget to outline as well the inside of these islands here. Don't forget the island of Crete, as well as this other part of the main body of Greece. There we go. All right, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna still use this blue. I'm gonna add in a couple of rivers just for fun. You don't have to add these in if you don't want to, but I'm gonna do it. So I'm gonna take my blue oil pastel, I'm gonna add maybe a river here, here, and here, and maybe here. There are a lot of rivers in Greece because, again, it's made up of a lot of islands. It's kind of almost as if it's, whoops, there goes my oil pastel. That's okay. But it's almost as if it's like breaking away. as well as there's lots of volcanoes or old volcanoes in this area. So that's what makes a lot of these tiny little islands as well. And again, just for fun, we're going to add in a couple of mountains. Greece does have mountain ranges. We're just going to add a couple of them in here. So I'm using a brown oil pastel for this part. Maybe for you, you're using a brown crayon or a colored pencil. And I'm just going to do an upside down V shape. Just add a little bit of color. Nothing terribly fancy, but still it's going to look really cool. Maybe I'll put one there, and then like a little one here, just for some contrast. I'll also put one over here and over here. I'm also going to take this time to outline the parts of the land of main Europe that Greece is connected to. So there are other European countries over on this side of Eastern Europe. It's not a big area you got to outline, but I'm still going to outline it anyway. And then you can go ahead and fill in any extra details you did, like a whale or a fish, as well as add in maybe some lines for waves. So I'm going to go ahead and break out kind of like this turquoisey color. I'm going to make little waves in the water just to make it more interesting. I might even go in with a dark blue, maybe a white later. If you really want your waves or your lines for your water to look more interesting, try doing like some big and some small. If you use a white oil pastel or a white crayon, it might be kind of hard to see now. But once we color on top of it with watercolor, it'll look even better because then you can see it. All right, then for my whale, I'm going to color it in with this gray. I purposefully didn't draw or make an outline of the whale on the bottom because I kind of want to make it look like he is coming out of the water. So I didn't want that harsh Sharpie line to be there, but you could still outline that if you wanted to. Okay. All right, once you've got all of that filled in and outlined, we're going to go ahead and switch to watercolor. So I have my watercolor bucket right here. I'm just going to set it off to the side. And then I have my watercolor palette here. It's well used and well loved. You can see clearly. And the first thing I want us to do is fill in parts of the flag. Now for the Greek flag, I'll show you which parts are blue and which parts are white. We want this blue to be kind of like a sky blue. So there are a lot of different meanings for the Greek flag as it has been around a while. So the cross actually does symbolize something that we know for sure. It represents Eastern Orthodox Christianity, which is the religion of Greece. But the blue and white have many meanings. You know, it could be the sky and the sea. It could be a representation of the 9 muses because there's 9 stripes. As well, it also could represent the syllables, and this is the most popular representation of the flag, it representing the 9 syllables in the Greek phrase freedom or death. A very powerful phrase indeed, so it makes sense why it would be the most popular. Now with the blue, you're going to fill in this top area. Remember, you want it to be kind of like a sky blue, anything close to that. As well as these little sections around the cross or around the kind of like the plus sign area. Now, even though the most popular meaning of the flag is for the 9 syllables of the Greek phrase, I actually really enjoy the kind of symbolization of it being a representation of the sky and the ocean. Because in a lot of Greek history and Greek culture, the sky and the ocean are really, really important. All right, so once you get that top part done, fill in this bottom part here with that blue as well. This is kind of starting the striped area. As we're coloring this in, I want to tell you guys about the city of Athens. Now, the city of Athens actually gets its name from a Greek goddess, which we're going to talk about more later. And the city of Athens has so much history in it because, again, it's super old. All right, for this bottom part of the island here, or pardon me, of the main body of Greece, you're going to fill in this bottom half with the blue. Because again, we're trying to make it look like it's stripes. Then you can fill in the island of Crete here, as well as any other islands with the blue. Okay. So if you need to take more time to fill that area in, again, you can just pause the video and look here, but I am going to show you what to color in next, which is going to be the land on this side of Greece, the rest of Europe. So for this, I'm actually going to choose sort of a light green. I'm just going to fill all of this in. It can be a light green or a dark green if you want. I just know I'm going to be using a lot of dark colors for the ocean, so maybe I want this area to be a little lighter. Nice long strokes. Don't scrub into your paper. Be nice to it, of course. Do try and outline around those edges before you start filling in those large areas that are next to it. Might be a little tricky because you have those wavy lines that you have to go next to, but that's okay. Take your time. And just make it nice and smooth. All right, when you're done with the land area here, we're gonna color in the ocean. Now, we just did a lot of really pretty blue for the flag, so we definitely need to choose a color that's really, really different than the Greek flag here. So what my solution to that is I'm gonna use like a turquoisey blue as well as a couple of different purples to make sort of like this blue, violet, turquoise-y sea. This is actually a watercolor technique called wet into wet that I'm about to do. So I'm getting water on my brush, it's just plain water, and I'm painting a chunk of this sea with plain water. And then I'll go in with my colors and sort of tap them in. So you can see I'm not brushing, I'm just tap, tap, tapping. I'll pick another color. Let's get maybe like a red violet, because why not? And I'll tap those in too. Now, if I feel that I don't really like how maybe the water spread that out, I can always take my brush and just gently sort of brush the colors into a different place. Now, the trick is that I don't want to brush it too much because I don't want that cool difference of the color to go away. I just kind of want to brush it enough to maybe fill in some of the white spaces. So my ocean looks complete instead of, you know, having those white areas in it. So I'm gonna paint another section with just water, and then I'll tap the paint on top. Now you don't want to do the entire ocean with plain water all at once, because by the time you get over here and you just put down the plain water, this area would have dried. So it's easier to go section by section for this technique rather than trying to do it all at once. Of course, if this technique doesn't really call to you, you're not really interested in doing this, you can just paint the ocean however you like. You can do regular watercolors where you just paint it normally. Now, the trick with wet into wet is you gotta be careful of puddles. You can see here I have a little puddle of too much water. So the solution to that is either A, get a paper towel and lightly tap to soak up some of that extra water. The other solution is spread it out. So you can see I'm really spreading out that color there. And then I can add in other colors as I go. Now, maybe some of you were in our classes about ancient art where you learned about the ancient Greek art. I believe you may have learned about a man named Homer and his tales of the Iliad and the Odyssey. Now, I don't expect a lot of you to have read those poems yet. They are written sort of like a poem or prose, but in a lot of those poems and stories from the Iliad and the Odyssey, the sea and the ocean comes into play a lot. Even if you just hear stories about Greek gods and goddesses, you'll know the ocean and even the sky are often talked about in those myths. All right, so we're almost done here, filling in our ocean. Again, if you need more time, you can just pause the video and keep on going. If you're doing the big wall map version, this is probably going to take you a lot longer because you have more space to color in and more paper to cover. But if you're doing just the watercolor paper like me, you might be at the same pace that I'm going. Even still, if you need more time, don't hesitate to pause. I want you to feel comfortable going at your own pace. All right, so that's all filled in. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna go ahead and set my watercolor stuff aside, and I am going to have a start on our landmarks. So once you're done with your map, set it aside and get out your paper or your little squares to do the landmarks on. Alrighty, so I'm gonna set that over here. I'm gonna move this out of the way. And with wet into wet, you'll probably notice, got some water on the table, so I'm gonna have to make sure that is all wiped away. So double check your desk as well to make sure watercolor and water is just not there. All right, so for your landmarks, the places we're going to be traveling to, you're going to need, again, a new piece of paper if you're doing the book, and if you're doing the wall map, this is the time to break out those squares. Now, this is only for my friends who are doing the book version like me. We are going to draw in some squares or some rectangles onto our paper here. Now, we're actually only going to be visiting 2 places today because we put a lot of effort into the map. So we're only going to draw 2 places to make up for all that work I made you do with drawing France. So what you're going to do, again, break out your pencil and eraser. I'm going to use my Sharpie just so that you can see. And I want you guys to draw 2 squares or 2 rectangles onto this piece of paper. I'm going to go ahead and move that out of the way just so that I can draw. If you also need to turn your paper so that it's more comfortable for you to make these straight lines, please do so. You could also use a ruler or any straight edge to help you make these lines nice and even. Okay. Now, once you have your boxes made, we are going to go ahead and begin traveling to some places. Now, the first place we're going to be going to is actually in Athens. It's in the capital of Greece, and it's called the Parthenon. So I want you to try saying Parthenon. Say Parthenon. All right, I'll help you spell it out here. They're not too tricky of words like the French words we learned about last time, but here's how you spell Athens again. We're going to write it at the top. And then down here, we're going to write Parthenon. So that's how you spell it, P-A-R-T-H-E-O-N-O-N. All right, so what is the Parthenon? The Parthenon is this very old kind of acropolis dedicated to the goddess of Athena. It's in Athens, of course, and Athena is kind of the patron goddess of Athens. Now, some of you might already know this, but Athena is the goddess of wisdom. And it's appropriate that a place like Athens, where they had a lot of scholars and philosophy is known, or Western philosophy is very popular for having kind of originated from there, that it would be called as such, kind of named after the goddess Athena. Now, let's see, how many years did it take to make? So it was started in the year 447 BC and completed in the year 432 BC. So you do the math on that one. With BC, that period of time, it's backwards. So the closer the number is to the number 0, the closer it is to us in time, if that makes sense. You can probably look it up and kind of go more into that. Now, it's this temple, and with Greek architecture, especially if you've been doing some of our history or art history classes before, it's this very simple design with lots of columns. So I'm going to help you draw it out. It's in perspective, so it's going to be a little tricky, but again, I'll try and break it down for you to make it easy as possible. We're actually going to start with the bottom of the Parthenon first. So you're going to go kind of towards the bottom of your paper. Again, you're doing this in pencil. I want you to draw just kind of like a very short diagonal line. You can make it a little longer if you want it to be. This is going to be the front of the Parthenon. Then I want you to draw just kind of a slight, long diagonal line out. Looking at these, I'm going to adjust. I'm going to make this one a little longer. All right, next what we're going to do, this part's going to be, again, the trickiest part. We are going to make this look like it's kind of in perspective. So I'm going to draw two short vertical lines. And we want this diagonal line to go slightly up, not like a lot, just ever so slightly. So watch how I draw this line first, and then you try. Again, so ever so slightly up. And then we're going to do the same thing as we go back. So you're going to draw kind of like a very slight diagonal line, and it gets a little bit smaller as you go towards the back. All right, next we're going to go ahead and do the top. We'll fill in the columns kind of later. So you're going to go kind of up here, and we're going to copy these lines. So watch again where I place them, and then you give it a try. So I'm going to go towards the top here, and I'm going to draw sort of another diagonal line that's really close to the one I made before. And then I'm going to draw another diagonal line that goes back. We want it again to be kind of the same thickness, so I'm going to make two lines here. Diagonal line out, back. Same deal here. All right, now we're going to go ahead and make the roof. So for this, it's actually kind of really interesting. I want you to make the letter S in these three places. I want you to then go to the top of this letter S, and we're going to make a mountain shape. This is going to be the front of the Parthenon that connects back to this letter S. Then I want you to draw a straight line across to connect like this. And now we can go ahead and add in some columns. Now for the columns, let's make the one here first. So you're going to make two straight lines down for one column. You're going to go over here and draw another two straight lines down to make another column. You can see I made this one smaller because, again, it's going away from us. It's in perspective. Same thing for the one over here. It's going to be slightly smaller, but go ahead and draw two straight lines down. When you're ready, you can draw two straight lines right here to make another column. And then we want three more columns in this part right here. So go ahead and draw three more columns. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more lines right there. Now just to help you keep track of your columns, I want you to draw two lines inside each of your columns. Now I know this part can be a little hard on your eyes. So if you need to pause the video to just kind of see which ones are columns, go ahead and pause and then draw them out. Now if you're ready to continue, we're going to go ahead and draw a ground for our Parthenon to sit on. So for this, I'm going to draw a horizontal line here on the back. We're not going to draw the other side of the Parthenon. We're just going to focus on this part here. And then you can draw some stones. The Parthenon, because of how old it is, it's obviously falling apart. It's made out of this like marble, and it's lost most of its structure over the years due to like earthquakes. It's been through obviously a lot of wars throughout Europe. So it's very old. There is some reconstruction of it. There's even a statue of Athena that's, I don't think it's on the inside right now, but there is a statue of Athena that goes with the Parthenon. Okay, so there we have it. That's the Parthenon. Let's go ahead and do the next place we're visiting, which is an island. So this is actually just a part of the country of Greece. So we're going to write Greece up here because it's literally an entire island that we're visiting right now. The island that we're visiting in Greece is called Santorini. And you can write it out here, Santorini. This island, I think, is so cool. So it's an island in the Aegean Sea. And if you look at your map, the Aegean Sea is about over here. And in the 16th century, it was devastated. The whole island was devastated by a volcanic eruption. In fact, the entire island was actually a volcano. So it exploded, and it was forever shaped by this explosion. So this island, what it looks like now, it looks like an underwater crater. And these towns in Santorini on the island kind of cling to the sides of the crater on the cliff edges. So it's really, really cool. It's like this, city hanging onto these cliff sides. The two principal towns that you see the architecture in that we're going to be primarily looking at are the towns of Fira and Oia. And they're the ones that are on the city cliffs. And the beaches, guys, the beaches in Santorini, they're made out of black, red, and white lava pebbles. So they're pretty cool. And of course, they have the most beautiful sunsets in the world. To begin, we are going to draw buildings here. Now for this, I want you to go to the side and you're going to draw straight line out, straight line down. Next, we're going to draw kind of like these dome structures. So in Santorini, the buildings, they're this very bright white, and they have these very beautiful sky blue rooftops. And that's kind of another part of it that makes it so beautiful, besides for the fact that it's literally a city inside of a volcanic crater. So to make these, we are going to go to just about here, a little bit to the side. You're going to draw a straight line down. And you're going to draw another straight line across. Then we're going to divide this into two buildings here. So I want you to draw just a straight line here. And then draw a rainbow on top for one building and a rainbow on top for another. Next, we're going to draw some more of those buildings down here. So I want you to draw, again, two straight lines. Draw a rainbow on top. Draw a U shape this time. And let's add 3 windows. That's just a straight line and then a rainbow for a window that I'm doing. We're going to draw another one behind this one. So let's draw 1, 2. Rainbow on top. We'll do a straight line across this time, maybe about here. And we can add in more windows. I'm going to do like really long rainbow windows on this one. And then just for fun, let's add another one over here. We'll make it much smaller since it's far away. Do straight lines down, straight line to connect, rainbow on top, and then give it that blue roof. Now when you're ready for it, we're going to go ahead and add some extra details. I'm thinking maybe I'll add in like a little part of a building right here. And we got to make the sea and the beach. So what I want us to do is we're going to separate now the town from the beach that we can see down below. So I want you to go about between these two buildings here and draw a diagonal line. Hop over the building and continue that diagonal line down. Next, we're going to draw the horizon line out here. So again, go back towards where we started that diagonal line. And instead, this time draw a horizontal line out. And that'll be like where the sky meets the ocean. You can go ahead and draw in a little beach. And as well, you can draw another island that you can see from Santorini in the background. All right, so once we got all that drawn out, I want you to go ahead and outline everything with a Sharpie or a permanent marker of some kind. For today's project, we're going to stick mostly on markers and watercolor to fill in our stuff. So I'm going to start with the markers. I'm going to scoot this out of the way. I'll get out our final color. Now, of course, if you are doing the wall map version, maybe doing watercolor and marker might be a little bit tricky, especially when the picture is so small. So for mine, I did color pencil and a little bit of marker. So you could use that as a substitute or really just whatever you have available to you. Now, how I'm going to color in my architecture, starting with the Parthenon in Athens, I kind of want to give it a little bit of some shadow. So I'm going to take my yellow marker and I'm just going to go to the left side of each of my columns and add a stroke of yellow, kind of to show like the sunlight is shining onto the columns that way. I might even fill in the bottom with some yellow, maybe the same thing on the top here. Maybe I'll do a little bit onto the edges, just here. You can feel free to do some along the ground. Next, I'll take a gray marker. I don't have a gray Mr. Sketch marker, unfortunately, so I'm going to use this Crayola one. Since it's made out of marble, it is this white or beige color. So I'm going to go now to the right side of the columns and add a stroke of gray, this time to give it some shading. Maybe I'll add in like a line of it on the bottom, sort of showing like the steps. I'll do kind of the same thing on the top just to give it a little detail, a little something to make it more interesting to look at. Now with the same color, I'm going to go ahead and just add some lines for texture onto the ground. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. You could instead fill this whole area in with a color marker or just any color you want. But I'm going to leave some of it white and just do texture. That's all. Thinking I might like to use a little bit of the green, so I'm going to go ahead and take a green Mr. Sketch marker. I think I'm going to outline the entire bottom of the Parthenon, as well as outline the horizon line on the side here. Just add in like some lines for grass, just for the ground. You could also go underneath some of these stones that are sort of dilapidated. Add some lines, add short, add long ones. Make it more interesting. And then you can start to work on your background. Now, my background for the Parthenon, I do want this to look like, you know, there's an inside part of the Parthenon that I can't quite see all the way through, like maybe there are other columns in the way. So you could even take maybe like the blue or even another gray marker, and you could fill in those spaces. Now in actuality, you can see through some of the columns, not like, you know, the columns themselves, but you can see to the other side because it's all open. There's space in between the columns. But for my Parthenon, I might fill this area in. So that's something you can choose to do too. You could also paint it blue like the sky to show that you can see the sky onto the other side. As well, I am going to go ahead and set these markers aside, and I'm going to do watercolor for the sky. Now, since we're kind of using this technique where we're not filling everything in, we're kind of leaving some of the white of the paper as a sort of effect, you can kind of do the same thing when you go in to fill in your sky. Again, I'm going to use sort of like a turquoise color. I'm just going to sort of put it in some places and maybe trail off towards the edges. So it gives this kind of like diffused or like this spreading out effect. I'm filling that in. Again, I kind of want it to sort of blend out to the sides here and have the middle part be the most blue area. All right. So that's all I wanted to do for the sky. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back to my markers to fill in my buildings in Santorini. Now, as I mentioned, the tops of these buildings in Santorini are this really fabulous blue color. And we're actually going to make this picture as if it was at sunset or even sunrise. So I'm going to do this really pretty dark blue color, and I recommend the same for you. Find just a really pretty dark blue color that you like. And you're going to fill in all of the rooftops, these dome shapes, with this blue color. So a lot of the buildings in the cities on Santorini are like this, where they have these beautiful blue tops here. So I'm trying to do long strokes. You saw me outline first and then fill in. That just ensures that I am going to stay neat. I don't have to worry about trying to keep the edges neat once I have it outlined either. All right. Once you have those filled in, we are going to go ahead and add some shading as well onto our buildings using marker. Now, the first color I want you guys to use is actually yellow. So go ahead and find a yellow marker, and the sun is going to be on this side of our picture setting, or maybe it's rising, depending on what side of Santorini you're on. So for this, I'm going to take my yellow marker, and on all of the left sides, I'm going to do 2 big strokes to show the sunlight hitting the edges of the building. Now, once you're done with that, and maybe you add a little more, I wouldn't recommend filling in all of the buildings with the yellow right now because, again, the buildings are white. But then I would take an orange, and you're going to do 1 stroke closest to the edge of the building, kind of like this. That's going to make it really look like that sunlight, that beautiful sunlight coming in from the sunset is hitting the side of the building. Now from here, we can go ahead and fill in our windows. I'm just going to use black to fill mine in. We can also add in some plants too. Now we don't want to do too many plants, but you can feel free to add even more than what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a green marker. I'm going to do just a couple of rainbows to sort of make little plant shapes. You could add lots of vines. You could make these long. You could do like vines down the side here. That would look pretty cool, but I'm just going to do that many. After that, I'm going to go ahead and fill in the beach area, which is this little tiny part right here. Like I said, they're usually black or red and white lava pebbles, excuse me. I'm gonna use a brown just as like a good medium color to catch all of those. I'm gonna fill that in. I think it would be really cool to see a beach made out of entirely black rock. That'd be so fun. And then for your island, you can choose whatever color you want. I'm gonna do orange, just so that it looks really cool against the sunset that I'll teach you guys how to make. As well as a finishing touch, if you want to add like lines in for your ocean, like wavy lines, you can feel free to do that too. All right, so if you need more time on your marker step, go ahead and pause the video, but I'll show you now what you can do with watercolor on this last step here. Now with the watercolor, I'm going to use it just to fill in my ocean and as well do a sunset. I'm going to fill in the ocean first just because it's already there, it's super small, might as well. I'll go ahead and kind of blend out that blue because I think it's quite dark. To blend it out, I just wiped off all of that extra blue and cleaned my brush a little bit and went in with plain water to spread it out to make it lighter. There we go. Now for a sunset, you can choose red, orange, and yellow to create sort of this sunset look in your sky. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and pick up some red on my brush and kind of using the tip of my brush, I'm going to add in just a few strokes of red here and maybe there. You can kind of decide for yourself where you want them to be, but I didn't add that many. I'm going to wash off my brush. I'm going to pick up a new color. You could do maybe a light orange or a yellow. I'm going to do the same thing. And what's going to happen is that this orange color is going to pick up some of the red, and it's going to kind of blend naturally together without me having to do a lot of effort. Now the idea is you don't want to blend away on purpose all of that red paint we just put down, but instead you're just kind of doing orange strokes around it. So that way it kind of gives it the look as if there were clouds or some sort of like some kind of haziness into the air to make it really look like those beach sunsets. So again, you could do this like with an orange or a yellow. And if you feel that, hey, I think I have too much red in one area, just take a brush with water on it. You can do long strokes to spread that out. You could even go in again with like a yellow and just add some strokes of that in there. And the water should blend that out a little bit. And you have a sunset. Now those are the two places we visited today. They are so beautiful, breathtaking even. Now if you want to be a little bit fancy with the project, you can take a blue marker. I recommend any blue. And you can outline around the edges of your places that you visited. So if you did one of the squares, you could do the same thing. You can outline with the blue around it, just to kind of give it this, you know, interesting look. And of course you can see with visiting Greece, there's a lot of blue. You know, the island of Santorini, all these blue buildings. The sky is super important, as we mentioned, and is that, well, their flag is blue and white. So what's wrong with using a little bit more blue to decorate our landmarks? This is optional, of course. You don't have to do this. If you like the way it looks without the outlines, you can feel free to keep it that way. As well, if you are doing this while your watercolor is drying, be careful. Don't want to accidentally get your marker in the watercolor, otherwise it will blend into there probably, depending on the marker that you're using. All right, there it is, all done. Okay, so let's review. I'm going to go ahead and pull out our map from before. At this time, your map should be pretty dry, so if there's any other details you wanted to add, you could add them in. But just to review, we visited the country of Greece today. It is in Eastern Europe, so it's in the east part of the continent of Europe. Greece is made up of thousands and thousands of islands in the Aegean and Ionian Seas, and the capital is Athens. And as well, I think I forgot to mention to you guys, it is bordered a little bit by the Mediterranean Sea. The Mediterranean Sea is over on this side. That's the sea that borders Italy and countries like Spain, which we'll be visiting next. Now the flag is blue and white. The cross symbolizes Eastern Orthodox Christianity, the religion of Greece, and the blue and white stripes, they have many meanings. We learned that the most popular meaning is probably the 9 stripes represent the 9 syllables of the Greek phrase freedom or death, but my favorite is that they represent the sky and the sea, or the 9 muses from Greek mythology. The landmarks we visited the Parthenon in Athens, which is a acropolis or like a temple-like building that was dedicated to the goddess Athena. As well, we visited the island of Santorini, which is known for these beautiful blue rooftop buildings. It is inside of an underwater volcano, an underwater crater, and the towns cling to the cliff sides, and their beaches have lava pebbles on them. So I hope you guys had a lot of fun visiting Greece today. Next time we are going to travel to the country of Spain, another very old country, where we're going to visit some, as well, very old buildings and some very beautiful, beautiful places. So I hope you'll stick around for that one. Keep an eye out for that video coming soon. Post your finished pictures onto our Fibo Village Facebook page. I would love to see them. And I'll see you again next time. Bye, everybody.